week after week, as she, has done well and established herself as a really good player on tour, they all come out to support her. And so I think we saw that in Australia when it was kind of overcrowded. They put her on too small of a court.
Jessica Pegula has officially conquered the WTA Dubai Open. Yet, in the throes of one of her career's defining triumphs, she pulled a move that speaks volumes about her true character. She hijacked the mic. She took the massive spotlight that accompanies a championship win and, rather than soaking up the adulation, she pivoted the narrative toward a peer she feels has been criminally undervalued. She brought up Alex Eala, and she didn't pull her punches. Pegula drew a line in the sand. In her view, Eala isn't just some rookie scraping for a foothold on the tour. She is a legitimate superstar in the making. She is a competitor who has proven, repeatedly, that she can trade blows with the absolute best. But there is a snag. The WTA treats her like an afterthought, and Pegula is done biting her tongue about it. She ripped the bandage off a sore subject that has been frustrating fans for ages, specifically referencing her own showdown with Eala back in Miami. She described stepping onto the court that day and being absolutely floored by the scene. The atmosphere wasn't just lively, it was a high-voltage shock to the system. The stands were packed to the rafters with a roaring, obsessive crowd. Pegula called it absolute madness, and she meant that with total respect. She wasn't griping. She was in awe, realizing she was sharing the court with a prodigy, who commands a legion of followers that most veteran icons would kill for. It is wild. I played her during her breakout run in Miami, my home turf, and the entire stadium was rooting against me. I stood there thinking, what on earth is happening? Where did this army even materialize from? And this wasn't an isolated incident in Florida. Pegula was adamant about that. She noted that whether it is Melbourne, Miami, or Dubai, Alex Eala consistently pulls the heaviest crowd numbers on the entire circuit. Fans mobilize for her. They book flights and endure endless queues just to watch her work. You cannot buy that kind of gravity. Tennis executives spend millions trying to manufacture that connection in target markets. Yet here stands a young powerhouse from the Philippines who captured that magic naturally, fueled purely by her grit, charisma, and backstory. But despite the data, despite the undeniable electricity Eala brings, the organizers keep burying her on the back courts. Pegula doesn't just find it confusing, she finds it insulting. She zeroed in on the Australian Open debacle, painting a picture that defies all business logic. Just look at the optics. You have an athlete generating some of the highest foot traffic in the tournament's history. You have supporters jetting in from all over Asia and the Philippines with the sole purpose of seeing Alex compete. And when they land, hyped and ready to roar, they find she has been relegated to a court the size of a postage stamp. I am pretty sure it was the Eala match I was watching. And the line was literally snake-wrapped around the venue with people desperate to get inside. It was bonkers. Look, it is awesome to see that hype, but for the fan experience, I do not know, it seems broken. Hopefully the event organizers wake up, because you had droves of people stuck on the pavement. They stood in lines that stretched to the horizon, praying for a miracle just to peek at the action. Most never stood a chance. After dropping serious cash and traveling thousands of miles, they were shut out. They were reduced to listening to the cheers through the walls, separated from the match they paid to see. Then came the knockout blow. Eala was eliminated. Those loyal fans left with nothing but sunburns and the memory of a queue that went nowhere. Pegula didn't sugarcoat it. She labeled it a gross disrespect to the athlete, the paying customers, and the massive wave of energy Eala is bringing to tennis. Her critique hits home because she isn't some pundit shouting from the cheap seats. She is a gladiator who has stood in that arena, faced Eala across the net, and felt the ground shake beneath her feet. When she raises a red flag, it is not speculation. She is speaking from the scars of her own reality. Then she dropped a bombshell, exposing a truth that frankly should have been splashed across every front page. Word on the street was that the Australian Open shattered attendance records, and that surge had one name written all over it, Alex Eala. Yet, the very catalyst for those historic crowds, the magnet pulling in the masses, was banished to one of the tiniest backcourts in the venue. You cannot call that a simple clerical error. That is a loud, undeniable message, and it is an ugly one. Pegula is hardly shouting into the void here. The chorus defending Eala grows more deafening with every single match. Even Novak Djokovic, the titan standing atop the mountain of Grand Slam history, a man who knows the inner workings of this machine better than anyone, stepped into the light to speak the unvarnished truth. He didn't mince words, crowning Eala as the absolute finest talent to ever emerge from the Philippines. He insisted she commands total respect, and validated the suspicion that her bizarre court placements and erratic scheduling have directly engineered the hurdles she battles during these competitions. When a living legend like Djokovic throws his weight behind a claim, the entire narrative pivots instantly. We are moving past the realm of angry fan forums. These are the gods of the game condemning a system they refuse to tolerate. Now, you might shrug and say these things are just unfortunate coincidences. You could play devil's advocate and claim it was just a scheduling mishap, a simple failure to book the main stage. But she is a prodigy on the rise, and the buzz surrounding her name is not just hype, it is a roar that demands attention. We are watching players erupt from new frontiers. Her rise from the Philippines is a game-changing moment. She stands as the most monumental talent that nation, a massive country with a voracious appetite for tennis, has ever unleashed. Then there was that questionable clash against Iga Swiatek, one of the most terrifyingly dominant forces in modern women's tennis. Right at the tipping point of that battle, just as Eala was catching fire, an official decided to interrupt her flow to nag her about the contents of her bag. The timing was suspect, the distraction fatal to her rhythm. It defies logic unless you entertain the dark thought that it was sabotage. Yet, this entire circus demonstrates one undeniable truth above all others. Alex Eala is here to stay, and every wall they build in her path only fortifies her resolve. Every shady ruling, every exile to the side courts, every attempt to shrink her presence has only set her legend on fire and swelled her army of supporters. She is rapidly outgrowing the petty politics and the tour's stubborn refusal to grant her the spotlight she has earned. Jessica Pegula recognizes it, Djokovic acknowledges it, and Coco Gauff sees it too. Millions of global fans witness it the second she walks out. The association can keep banishing her to the shadows, but there is nothing small about Alex Eala, not her gift, not her spirit, and certainly not her destiny.
Week after week, as she has done well and established herself as a really good player on tour, they all come out to support her. And so I think we saw that in Australia when it was kind of overcrowded. They put her on a too small of a court.
I think it was Eala is the match that I was looking at, and there was people like wrapped around the stadium just trying to get in, which is pretty crazy. And I mean, it's cool to see and it's exciting, but obviously,
She kind of broke out last year in Miami, and I'm from there, and
reached her maiden WTA Tour final at Eastbourne and captured her first WTA 125 title at Guadalajara. Once again, put your hands together for Alex and
3 games to 1.